Behind the dazzling lights of the West End and the glamorous covers of Fleet Street lay a terrifying reality that the British public never saw. Millions adored these radiant beauties of the silver screen and broadcasting networks, believing their lives were endless fairy tales. Yet behind closed doors, they hid devastating afflictions, watching their celebrated features fade in the shadows. Stripped of their vanity, they faced their final days in complete isolation. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below as we uncover the heartbreaking secrets of these forgotten stars. Carol White, celebrated across the United Kingdom as the epitome of modern glamour, this actress perfectly embodied the breathtaking allure of the 1960s. Fleet Street adored her expressive features, and her dramatic performances on BBC television transformed her into an overnight national sensation. Casting directors clambered to secure her talents for the silver screen, mesmerized by her golden hair and flawless complexion. She remained the undisputed darling of the broadcasting networks, living a glamorous existence woven from gold and relentless applause. Millions of viewers eagerly anticipated her public appearances, convinced she was destined for unending admiration. Beneath this dazzling public veneer, a silent tragedy was steadily destroying her fragile existence from within. A devastating internal affliction began to take an unforgiving toll on her delicate health. The radiant beauty that once effortlessly captivated the nation started to tragically warp, leaving her previously exquisite face heavily swollen and prematurely aged. She developed a crippling sense of shame regarding her rapidly altering reflection, terrified that the notoriously cruel lenses of the British tabloids would mercilessly expose her decline. Countless agonizing days were spent locked away behind heavily drawn curtains, desperately hiding the physical ravages of a cruel disease she could neither conquer nor successfully conceal. The crushing culmination of her hidden misery arrived during her last desperate attempts to reclaim her fading glory on independent film sets. Former colleagues who remembered her as a luminous starlet were left utterly speechless by her drastically unrecognizable appearance. The poorly concealed whispering among the camera crew became unbearable as she nervously struggled through demanding lines, constantly attempting to angle her swollen face away from the harshness of the studio lighting. Ruthless photographers aggressively captured unflattering angles that profoundly humiliated the fragile actress. Absolute humiliation consumed her entirely, forcing her to flee the filming location in a flood of bitter tears, broken by the publicly shattered illusion of her youth. Ultimately, the superficial entertainment industry that once passionately worshipped her flawless features turned its back on the ailing star. Stripped of lucrative acting contracts and abandoned by the glamorous acquaintances who had eagerly basked in the glow of her fame, she retreated into obscurity. Her bleak final years were spent in desperate exile across the Atlantic, thousands of miles away from the prestigious West End theatres and bustling television studios she once ruled. She tragically slipped away from this world in profound isolation, surrounded only by dusty newspaper clippings of a magnificent face she no longer possessed. A dazzling diamond of British cinema was extinguished in the cold shadows forever. Lynn Frederick. Hailed as the quintessential English rose of the 1970s, this gifted actress captured the collective heart of the nation with effortless grace. Fleet Street devoted endless pages to her pristine beauty, praising her porcelain complexion and mesmerizing gaze that commanded the silver screen. Esteemed directors across the British broadcasting networks clamored to feature her in prestigious historical dramas, where her radiant youth illuminated every frame. Admirers firmly believed she was an untouchable goddess residing in a world of absolute perfection and everlasting glamour. Surrounded by the relentless adulation of the British tabloids, she expertly maintained the illusion of a carefree existence while quietly battling terrible internal ailments. a profound darkness began to eclipse her vibrant career as severe physiological conditions took root deep within her fragile system. Once celebrated for her delicate features, she watched in sheer horror as relentless medical complications caused her face to become drastically swollen and unrecognizable. A crippling paranoia consumed her waking hours as she desperately tried to mask the physical deterioration. Endless weeks were spent confined within the darkened walls of her residence, terrified that ruthless photographers might capture her fading elegance. The profound shame she felt regarding her altering reflection forced her to systematically sever ties with closest companions from the West End theatre circles. She vehemently refused to look into any mirrors, devastated by the cruel manner in which her celebrated beauty had been violently stripped away by a merciless affliction. Every knock at the door became a source of immense anxiety, representing the outside world she deeply feared. The harrowing culmination of her hidden nightmare unfolded during a disastrous attempt to resurrect her fading television career. Arriving at a busy broadcasting studio, the atmosphere instantly shifted from enthusiastic anticipation to poorly disguised shock among the seasoned camera crew. Whispers echoed relentlessly through the corridors as former colleagues struggled to recognize the bloated woman trembling beneath the harsh studio illumination. Overwhelmed by the suffocating humiliation and pitying stares, she fled the terrifying environment in a desperate flood of silent tears. Following this thoroughly devastating public humiliation, the once radiant star retreated permanently into absolute obscurity, entirely abandoning the silver screen. She barricaded herself inside her home, categorically refusing all offers of assistance from the few remaining friends who sincerely wished to help. Glamorous costumes and glowing reviews were left to gather dust while she silently endured the agonizing stages of her physical collapse. Ultimately, she passed away tragically in profound isolation. The vibrant darling of British cinema vanished into the shadows forever. Margaret Leighton, gracing the grand stages of the West End with unparalleled elegance, this extraordinary actress was universally regarded as the ultimate pinnacle of British theatrical royalty. Her striking aristocratic features and magnetic presence effortlessly commanded the attention of broadcasting networks, securing her place on the silver screen. Fleet Street journalists constantly marveled at her flawless complexion, dedicating countless pages to her cinematic triumphs. During the mid-20th century, she reigned supreme over the entertainment industry, surrounded by a glittering entourage of influential admirers who sincerely believed her magnificent career would endure for an eternity. However, a profound tragedy began to unfold behind the heavy velvet curtains of her glamorous public existence. A devastating neurological affliction secretly invaded her system and began to cruelly dismantle her celebrated physical grace. The legendary facial symmetry that had previously mesmerized millions of devoted cinema patrons gradually succumbed to uncontrollable tremors and painful swelling. Paralyzed by an overwhelming sense of vanity and desperate to preserve her immortalized screen image, she developed a crippling shame regarding her rapidly deteriorating reflection. She locked herself away in darkened rooms, terrified that the relentless British tabloids would discover her heartbreaking secret and expose her fading beauty to a remarkably unforgiving public audience. The agonizing climax of her carefully concealed nightmare occurred during a highly anticipated television drama. As she bravely stepped into the unforgiving glare of the studio illumination, the shocking reality of her severe physical decline became impossible to camouflage. Seasoned camera operators and veteran makeup artists exchanged terribly uncomfortable glances, entirely stunned by the tragic alteration. Her normally flawless delivery was completely shattered as her facial muscles painfully betrayed her, causing her immense distress in front of the silent crew. Overwhelmed by the suffocating atmosphere of pity and humiliation, she hastily abandoned the production, weeping bitterly over the public destruction of her flawless facade, knowing her career was irreparably damaged. Following this deeply traumatic professional catastrophe, the dazzling world of the British silver screen quietly turned its back on the fading icon. She permanently withdrew from the glittering theatrical circles she had once effortlessly dominated, severing all communication with the glamorous society that only valued her former beauty and flawless public appearances. Confined to the silent rooms of her residence, she spent her final years entirely bereft of companionship, stubbornly refusing to allow anyone to witness her physical devastation. She eventually passed away tragically in profound isolation, enveloped by silence. The unforgettable aristocratic beauty was ultimately consumed by the shadows forever. Vivian Merchant, highly respected across the British theatrical landscape, this mesmerizing performer reigned as the undisputed intellectual beauty of the West End during the 1960s. Fleet Street journalists worshipped her enigmatic charm, frequently describing her as the ultimate muse of modern drama. Directors from major broadcasting networks pleaded for her participation in sophisticated television plays. She floated through the glittering high society of the capital, completely enveloped in glowing reviews and prestigious accolades. Her delicate features and hauntingly expressive eyes captivated audiences who viewed her as the absolute embodiment of aristocratic grace. Deep behind the illustrious theatrical facade, a profound sorrow began to manifest as a physically destructive condition. A debilitating internal sickness ravaged her formerly flawless constitution, systematically dismantling the celebrated elegance that had defined her entire career. The radiant complexion that the British tabloids had relentlessly praised turned tragically ashen, while her remarkably expressive face became painfully bloated and unrecognizable. Gripped by a terrifying vanity, she developed an absolute dread of the photographic lenses that once adored her. She spent countless agonizing weeks isolated behind locked doors, consumed by the immense shame of her fading reflection. The catastrophic breaking point of her carefully guarded secret occurred during a deeply harrowing return to the theatrical stage. Stepping into the harsh glare of the spotlight, the devastating physical transformation shocked the seasoned West End crew into complete silence. Fellow actors exchanged immensely uncomfortable glances as she stumbled through her carefully rehearsed lines, visibly distressed by the cruel whispers echoing from the darkened auditorium. The suffocating weight of public pity and barely concealed revulsion proved entirely unbearable. She fled the prestigious theatre in absolute agony, her professional confidence completely shattered by the exposure of her ruined beauty. Following this utterly humiliating public ordeal, the unforgiving entertainment industry swiftly discarded the fading star. Stripped of her once glorious theatrical contracts, she retreated entirely from the glamorous London circles that had previously worshipped her every move. She vehemently rejected any attempts at contact from former colleagues, choosing instead to endure her heartbreaking physical deterioration in absolute solitude. The magnificent darling of the British silver screen spent her twilight years hidden away from the world she once conquered. She passed away tragically in profound isolation, leaving behind only the haunting memories of a spectacular face lost to the shadows. Janet Munro, adored by the British public and international audiences alike, this enchanting actress represented the absolute pinnacle of cinematic beauty during the late 1950s and 60s. Fleet Street journalists showered her with relentless admiration, endlessly praising her captivating smile and luminous presence on the silver screen. Broadcasting networks fiercely competed to secure her talents for leading dramatic roles. She moved effortlessly through the most exclusive circles of the West End, widely celebrated as an untouchable national treasure. Millions of devoted cinema patrons sincerely believed her enchanting career would remain untouched by the cruel passage of time, suspended in perfect glamour. Hidden beneath the glittering facade of her public triumphs, a devastating internal affliction was secretly dismantling her physical well-being. A terrible systemic disease began to aggressively ravage her delicate constitution, cruelly stripping away the celebrated elegance that had firmly established her stardom. Her previously flawless face became tragically swollen and permanently altered, deeply marred by the relentless progression of severe medical complications. Consumed by a crippling vanity, she developed an absolute terror of her own rapidly changing reflection. She spent endless weeks barricaded inside her residence, terrified that the notoriously vicious British tabloids would mercilessly expose her heartbreaking physical decline. The catastrophic climax of her carefully guarded nightmare unfolded during a deeply harrowing attempt to resume her television career. Stepping nervously under the unforgiving glare of the broadcasting studio illumination, the shocking reality of her heavily bloated features stunned the seasoned camera crew into an immensely uncomfortable silence. Veteran colleagues struggled miserably to maintain eye contact, bewildered by the tragic physical transformation of the formerly radiant starlet. She stumbled desperately through the demanding production, suffocating under the heavy atmosphere of profound pity and poorly concealed shock. Overwhelmed by absolute humiliation, she hastily abandoned the filming location in a flood of bitter tears. Following this devastating professional catastrophe, the superficial entertainment industry permanently closed its golden doors on the fading icon. Stripped of her lucrative contracts and abandoned by the glamorous society that only valued her youthful perfection, she retreated into absolute obscurity. She systematically severed all remaining ties with the outside world, fiercely determined to hide her ruined appearance from the predatory lenses of the paparazzi. Barricaded within the silent walls of her London apartment, she refused any visitors, preferring the cold embrace of solitude over judging stares. She ultimately passed away tragically in profound isolation. A mesmerizing British diamond was quietly swallowed by the shadows forever. Rachel Roberts, celebrated as a passionate force within the British theatrical landscape, this mesmerizing Welsh actress captivated audiences throughout the 1960s. Fleet Street journalists frequently dedicated columns to her striking features and magnetism on the silver screen. Directors across the broadcasting networks fiercely competed for her intense dramatic presence. She navigated the glittering high society of the capital, surrounded by devoted admirers. Millions of cinema patrons sincerely believed she was an invincible talent, destined to reign over the entertainment industry for decades, with her flawless public image intact. Behind the heavily guarded doors of her glamorous existence, a terrifying physical deterioration was silently destroying her spirit. A debilitating internal sickness began to ruthlessly attack her constitution, erasing the striking beauty that had defined her illustrious career. Her previously radiant face, once the absolute darling of the British tabloids, became tragically swollen and scarred by the relentless progression of her hidden afflictions. Paralyzed by overwhelming vanity, she developed a crippling terror of her rapidly altering reflection. She spent agonizing weeks barricaded inside her darkened residence, desperately trying to conceal the devastating ruin of her celebrated appearance from a fiercely unforgiving public. The catastrophic climax of her carefully concealed nightmare unfolded during a harrowing attempt to return to the demanding West End stage. Stepping nervously into the harsh glare of the theatrical spotlights, the shocking reality of her severely bloated features stunned the seasoned crew into an uncomfortable silence. Veteran actors exchanged painfully awkward glances as she stumbled through her complex dialogue, overwhelmed by the suffocating atmosphere of pity and poorly disguised shock. The sheer humiliation of exposing her ruined visage to her former peers proved utterly unbearable. She hastily abandoned the prestigious production in a flood of bitter tears, her professional confidence completely shattered. Following this traumatic public catastrophe, the superficial entertainment industry permanently closed its doors on the fading icon. Stripped of her lucrative contracts and entirely abandoned by the glamorous society that only valued her youthful perfection, she retreated into absolute obscurity. She systematically severed all remaining ties with the outside world, determined to hide her physical devastation from the predatory lenses of the paparazzi. Barricaded within the silent walls of her home, she vehemently refused all visitors, choosing solitude over the judging stares of former friends. She ultimately passed away tragically in profound isolation. A brilliant flame of British cinema was quietly swallowed by the shadows forever. Alma Cogan, adored as the undisputed queen of British traditional pop during the 1950s, this magnificent vocalist completely captivated the nation with her effervescent charm. Fleet Street journalists dedicated endless columns to her lavish wardrobe and immaculate complexion, declaring her the absolute pinnacle of musical glamour. Broadcasting networks relentlessly pursued her for prime-time television appearances, desperate to capture her radiant smile. She gracefully navigated the elite social circles of London, surrounded by a glittering entourage of influential admirers. Audiences across the United Kingdom sincerely believed her joyous public persona was utterly invincible. Concealed entirely from the adoring public, a horrifying medical nightmare was quietly destroying her vibrant spirit from within. A highly aggressive internal sickness began to ruthlessly consume her previously robust constitution, violently eroding the breathtaking beauty that the British tabloids had relentlessly praised. The legendary facial symmetry that had mesmerized millions of devoted fans gradually succumbed to painful swelling and severe discoloration. Gripped by a terrifying sense of vanity, she developed a crippling shame regarding her deteriorating physical state. She locked herself away in darkened rooms, dreading the moment the merciless press would discover her tragic secret. The agonizing breaking point of her fiercely protected illusion occurred during a highly anticipated return to the television studios. Emerging nervously into the unforgiving glare of the broadcasting spotlights, the devastating physical transformation shocked the seasoned production crew into complete silence. Fellow performers exchanged immensely uncomfortable glances as she bravely attempted to deliver her signature melodies, visibly distressed by the cruel whispers echoing through the corridors. The suffocating weight of public pity and barely concealed revulsion proved entirely unbearable for the struggling singer. She fled the prestigious studio in absolute agony, her professional confidence completely shattered by the exposure of her fading features. In the wake of this deeply traumatic public catastrophe, the unforgiving entertainment industry swiftly discarded the fading musical icon. Stripped of her once glorious recording contracts, she retreated entirely from the glamorous high society that had previously worshipped her. She vehemently rejected any attempts at contact from former colleagues, choosing instead to endure her heartbreaking physical deterioration in absolute solitude behind heavy curtains. The magnificent darling of the British broadcasting networks spent her twilight months completely hidden away from the world she once conquered. She ultimately passed away tragically in profound isolation, leaving behind only the haunting memories of a spectacular face forever lost to the shadows. Susan Shaw, regarded as the quintessential blonde bombshell of the British silver screen during the 1950s, this actress captured the adoration of the nation. Fleet Street journalists dedicated countless magazine covers to her flawless complexion, declaring her the embodiment of cinematic perfection. Directors across the broadcasting networks competed to secure her talents for ambitious dramatic projects. She navigated the glittering high society of the capital with spectacular grace, surrounded by a devoted entourage of admirers. Millions of cinema patrons sincerely believed her enchanting public persona was utterly invincible, destined to reign over the entertainment industry in eternal glamour. Concealed beneath the surface of her tremendous public triumphs, a devastating internal affliction was quietly destroying her spirit. A destructive physiological sickness began to ruthlessly consume her previously robust constitution, violently eroding the breathtaking beauty that the British tabloids had relentlessly praised. The legendary facial symmetry that had previously mesmerized audiences gradually succumbed to painful swelling and severe premature aging. Gripped by a terrifying sense of vanity, she developed a crippling shame regarding her rapidly deteriorating physical state. She locked herself away in darkened rooms, dreading the moment the merciless press would discover her tragic secret and destroy her immortalized screen image. The agonizing breaking point of her fiercely protected illusion occurred during a highly anticipated return to a busy television studio. Emerging nervously into the unforgiving glare of the broadcasting spotlights, the devastating physical transformation shocked the seasoned production crew into absolute silence. Fellow performers exchanged uncomfortable glances as she bravely attempted to deliver her rehearsed lines, visibly distressed by the cruel whispers echoing through the corridors. The suffocating weight of public pity and barely concealed revulsion proved entirely unbearable for the struggling starlet. She fled the prestigious studio in absolute agony, her professional confidence completely shattered by the brutal exposure of her ruined features. Following this deeply traumatic professional catastrophe, the superficial entertainment industry permanently closed its doors on the fading icon. Stripped of her lucrative acting contracts and abandoned by the glamorous society that only valued her youthful perfection, she retreated into absolute obscurity. She systematically severed all remaining ties with the outside world, fiercely determined to hide her physical devastation from the predatory lenses of the paparazzi. Barricaded within the silent walls of her London residence, she vehemently refused all visitors, choosing solitude over the judging stares of former friends. She passed away tragically in profound isolation. A mesmerizing British diamond was swallowed by the shadows forever. Nairi Dawn Porter, worshipped as the embodiment of aristocratic beauty during the 1960s, this mesmerizing star captured the collective heart of the United Kingdom. Fleet Street journalists dedicated extensive columns to her flawless complexion and elegance on the silver screen. Directors across the major broadcasting networks fought fiercely to feature her in prestigious dramas, eager to capture her breathtaking grace. She effortlessly navigated the exclusive circles of the West End, surrounded by an elite entourage of admirers. Millions of devoted viewers sincerely believed her spectacular public persona was entirely untouchable, destined to remain suspended in a state of eternal glamour. Concealed beneath the glittering surface of her tremendous public triumphs, a devastating internal affliction was quietly destroying her fragile constitution. A terrible systemic sickness began to ruthlessly consume her health, violently eroding the legendary beauty that the British tabloids had relentlessly praised. The exquisite facial symmetry that had once mesmerized audiences gradually succumbed to painful swelling and severe discoloration due to punishing treatments. Gripped by a terrifying sense of vanity, she developed a crippling shame regarding her rapidly deteriorating physical state. She locked herself away in darkened rooms, dreading the terrifying moment the merciless press would discover her tragic secret. The agonizing breaking point of her fiercely protected illusion occurred during a highly anticipated return to a busy television studio. Emerging nervously into the unforgiving glare of the broadcasting spotlights, the devastating physical transformation shocked the seasoned production crew into an uncomfortable silence. Fellow performers exchanged profoundly awkward glances as she bravely attempted to deliver her rehearsed lines, visibly distressed by the cruel whispers echoing through the corridors. The suffocating weight of public pity and barely concealed revulsion proved entirely unbearable for the struggling actress. She fled the prestigious studio in absolute agony, her confidence completely shattered by the exposure of her ruined features. Following this deeply traumatic professional catastrophe, the superficial entertainment industry permanently closed its golden doors on the fading icon. Stripped of her lucrative acting contracts and abandoned by the glamorous society that only valued her youthful perfection, she retreated into absolute obscurity. She systematically severed all remaining ties with the outside world, fiercely determined to hide her physical devastation from the predatory lenses of the relentless paparazzi. Barricaded within the silent walls of her residence, she vehemently refused all visitors, choosing cold solitude over the judging stares of former friends. She ultimately passed away tragically in profound isolation. A mesmerizing British diamond was swallowed by the shadows forever. Vivien Leigh, revered across the globe as the absolute epitome of British theatrical royalty, this magnificent actress completely defined the golden age of the mid-20th century. Fleet Street journalists worshipped her delicate porcelain features, dedicating thousands of pages to her monumental triumphs on the silver screen and the prestigious West End stage. The major broadcasting networks considered her an untouchable goddess of drama, while audiences marveled at her flawless complexion and enchanting gaze. She floated through the glittering elite high society of London, universally celebrated as a cultural treasure. Millions of devoted cinema patrons sincerely believed her extraordinary existence was a permanent fairy tale, destined to remain forever untouched by the cruel passage of time. Behind the illustrious velvet curtains of her spectacular public triumphs, a terrifying medical reality was violently destroying her fragile constitution. A devastating respiratory sickness, combined with severe neurological afflictions, began to aggressively consume her health, cruelly dismantling the legendary elegance that the British tabloids had relentlessly praised. The exquisite facial symmetry that had previously mesmerized international audiences gradually succumbed to the visible ravages of chronic exhaustion and aggressive medical treatments. Gripped by an overwhelming sense of vanity, she developed a crippling shame regarding her rapidly deteriorating physical state. She spent agonizing weeks barricaded inside her darkened London residence, terrified that the merciless press would expose her tragic decline. The catastrophic breaking point of her fiercely protected illusion occurred during a deeply harrowing attempt to complete a demanding cinematic production. Emerging nervously into the unforgiving glare of the heavy studio spotlights, the devastating physical transformation shocked the seasoned production crew into an immensely uncomfortable silence. Veteran performers and directors exchanged profoundly awkward glances as she bravely attempted to deliver her complex dialogue, visibly distressed by the cruel whispers echoing through the shadowy corridors. The suffocating weight of public pity and barely concealed shock proved entirely unbearable for the struggling theatrical queen. She broke down completely, her immense professional confidence utterly shattered by the brutal exposure of her fading features. Following this deeply traumatic professional catastrophe, the superficial entertainment industry slowly turned its back on the fading icon. Stripped of the invincible aura that once commanded lucrative contracts, she retreated entirely from the glamorous society that only valued her youthful perfection. She systematically severed all remaining ties with the outside world, fiercely determined to hide her physical devastation from the predatory lenses of the ruthless paparazzi. Barricaded within the silent walls of her elegant but lonely apartment, she vehemently refused visitors, choosing cold solitude over the judging stares of former friends. She ultimately passed away tragically in profound isolation. A mesmerizing British diamond was quietly swallowed by the shadows forever.